Hey everyone, Sheldon here, and welcome to this video. So, over the years we've seen hardened paper guns, hidden blades, knives, but is it possible to make something you can use in everyday life, like a paper skateboard? Is it possible for this thin, flimsy material to make something you can actually stand on? Well, we're gonna find out. Alright, so here's the plan. I have two skateboard decks right here, a template layer, and several strips of paper right there. So I'm going to apply these strips to the template layer in 4 different directions. This direction, this direction, the diagonal direction, and the other diagonal direction. Having a structure like this will make it a lot stronger because all of the fibers will be going in different directions. Alright, so don't be fooled by the time lapses. This has already taken a pretty long time just to get to this point. But as you can see, this is about 30 layers right now, and it's pretty strong. You can see I'm able to hold it up from one side just like this, and it doesn't, bend down like a sheet of paper would. So it's very solid already, just for being 30 layers. So basically, after adding any number of layers to this, I put it on top of the other deck, and then I put the other deck on top of that, and then I make sure the holes are lined up, and then clamp all around the outside. And then I let it dry just like that overnight, and whenever I want to add more layers, I just take all the clamps off, and then add more layers, and then put the clamps back on, let it dry, and then I just continue doing that several times. Alright, quick update guys. I am really sick of adding layers to this. As you can see right now, it's a little bit more than 70 layers thick, so it's getting there. It probably seems like it's taken like 2 days or something to get to this point, but it's actually been 2 months. 2 months. Just to give you guys a little bit of perspective, to add 1 layer to this skateboard deck, so strips going from one side to the other counts as 1 layer. To add 1 layer takes 1 hour. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not the paper crafter that should be attempting this project, but I can't stop now, it's like almost done. So I have to add like 40 more layers to this to get it to the right thickness, which is about 1/2 inch thick, and I'm going to add them to the bottom just to change it up a little bit because this is extremely repetitive. So 1 more time-lapse sequence and this will be done, the layering process at least, and then I'll show you guys what I have in mind after that. It's going to involve a lot of super glue. So this took 1 additional month to finish adding the rest of the layers. So in total, this took 3 months of on and off work to complete the entire layering process. And it is exactly 1/2 inch thick, which is what I wanted, so that's good. You can see I added some wide strips just to finish it off, and I did that just to have fewer seams going across the entire surface, so it'll be easier to sand it and finish it off, get a nice and smooth surface. I did it to the bottom as well. It will just make the sanding and finishing process a lot easier. So just like any project, to make it as strong as it can possibly be, I'm going to take a lot of super glue and apply it all around the outside edge. And that will fill up all the little gaps, and then I'm going to take a C-clamp and compress the layers together and just work my way around. And that will make the entire skateboard deck a lot stronger. So you can see I finished adding super glue all around the outside edge, and then I compressed all of the layers together, so you can see it's a little bit darker than it was before, and that's because the super glue really saturated those layers, so it won't be able to peel away as easily. You can see the outside edge is still pretty rough. It has these low areas here, especially right here. So to fix that, I'm going to fill those up with some super glue and baking soda. So to do that, just going to take some super glue and fill up this gap. I'm going to take some baking soda and sprinkle it over it just like this. After about 10 minutes, it has pretty much completely solidified, so now I'm just going to file it down. So it's easy to get carried away when you're doing this and just do it for hours and hours and hours until you have like a perfect mirror finish. But I'm not too worried about it right now because this is just going to get rounded off anyway. So the only part that's actually going to be exposed is the middle of this entire outside surface, because that will be the highest point of the rounded surface. So I'm going to finish going all around the outside edge and filling up all the low spots and then filing it smooth. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm just going to round it off later, but it's easier to get rid of most of the inconsistencies now than later. Okay, so I finished doing that around the outside edge, and it's good enough to move on to the next step. So for the next step, if you look closely, there's a line drawn around the outside, and it is 1/8 of an inch in from this outside edge. I did the same thing to the bottom, as you can see. So the idea is something like this. You have the skateboard deck. This is like a cutaway view. And this is the outside edge, so it's measuring in 1/8 of an inch on the top and the bottom, and then you establish the middle on the side and create kind of a rounded shape like that. And if that doesn't make any sense, then you'll see what I mean. So here we go. Okay, I think it looks pretty good at this point. It's not perfect, but it's the best I could do with hand tools. And now I just have to take even more super glue and completely coat this entire surface and the surface on the bottom as well. Doing that will add even more strength, and it'll also work as a protective coat, so it'll be a little bit more water resistant. Alright, I have some trucks here, as you can see, and I already assembled them just to save some time. So it's pretty simple. You just put these on the bottom of the deck and secure it in place with some hardware, as you can see. Okay, so here's the deck right here, as you can see, and all I have to do is line up the holes and use these to secure it, like I said. But if you look at the top right here, I actually countersunk the holes, so took a bigger size drill and drilled out the top area so these can sit flush with the surface, as you can see. So I'm just going to line this up just like this and use this nut to fasten it. And then I'm just going to use this skate tool to tighten them down a little bit more. So I just use this part to hold the top just like that, and then this part to tighten it down. Okay, so here's the skateboard right here, and you can probably tell I've been adding some reinforcements to this side to prevent delamination. Delamination is when the layers start to separate. It's a common problem with just normal skateboards, so you know, it could possibly happen with this as well. You can see it's just a couple of screws and stuff visible on this side, but if I flip it over, you can see I actually have some reinforcement plates here, and they go underneath the base of this to support everything completely. And then if you look at this side right here, you can probably imagine there would be a tremendous amount of torque along the metal edge of this base plate right here, I guess you could say. So by standing all of your weight on this side, this could start to bend right there. And if it starts to bend, paper doesn't really lose its strength until it creases. So as long as none of this creases, it should be all right. It would actually bend kind of in a curved shape, not just straight across due to the curvature of the skateboard deck. So as long as everything stays nice and straight, which these plates and reinforcements should do, these edges can't really delaminate. And obviously these screws right here should keep everything together a little bit better as well. They go all the way through and just, you know, hold the layers together. And you can see this doesn't really look very pleasant to stand on, so I'm just gonna have to cut those down with something to not stand on spikes. And then if we look back over at this side right here, you can see there aren't any screws or anything. I actually haven't added any reinforcements to this side whatsoever yet, and I didn't do that yet because I wanted to show you guys the process I did to do that. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you really quick that this skateboard without reinforcements on this side can support my weight. Obviously in the middle right now because it didn't just snap in half, and I can actually lean all my weight on one side and bring it back up. It's obviously that tremendous amount of torque we were talking about. And there are a couple things I notice about this. It does actually flex just a little bit more than a regular skateboard deck. And also, it's really, really heavy. before I added any reinforcements, and without the trucks, it's about twice as heavy as a regular skateboard deck, so paper is really heavy. Okay, so now I'm just going to add the reinforcements to the other side. So to do that, I'm just going to use this pencil to outline this base plate right here. And now I'm just going to take this off again. Okay, so now I have this rectangular shape drawn on there. So to reinforce this side the same way I did this side, I used some of these flat corner braces. I got these at Walmart for, you know, like $2 or something like that, so they're really cheap. So I'm just going to do this to this side. So first thing I have to do is extend these lines a little bit, so I'm just going to use a ruler for this. So just like this. And then I'm just going to take one of these bracket pieces, and basically this line right here is going to be positioned between these two holes, so right there, and then this line right here is going to be positioned between these two holes, so it will just sort of find the right place, because, you know, if they're both lined up, then everything will be consistent. And this applies to all of the corner brackets. So this one, you know, it's going to go here, and then you're going to have one here like that, and then of course the last one right there. So basically it's kind of like a square shape. So I just have to cut away some paper material in the same shape in order to accommodate for the added thickness of these, because as you can probably imagine, this will not be flush with the surface anymore. These will get in the way. So I'm just lining this up, have some marks on there so I know where it needs to be, and I'm just gonna start tracing around it. Okay, so there's the outline right there. So now I just need to start cutting out this shape and peeling up some layers until I have enough room for this. And actually needs to be a little bit deeper than the thickness of this, because these screws aren't exactly perfect, so they don't fit, you know, completely flush. All right, here we go. Okay, so now I have enough space for this little corner brace right here. And you can see I actually bent it slightly to match the shape of the skateboard deck. So that goes in there just like that. Now I'm just going to drill out these holes using a drill that is smaller in diameter than the screws I'm going to be using, so the threads can actually, you know, thread into the paper and everything should stay in place. So I have all the holes drilled now, as you can see, and all I have to do now is take a lot of super glue, put it in here, and then push this down in place. And then these screws will add additional support and pressure, and everything should stay in the same place. So I'm just adding the glue. Put some on the back of here as well. And now I'm just going to put this down like this, apply some pressure, take one of these screws, start tightening it. Add some super glue to the threads. Tighten it down. Alright, so there it is. It's nice and secure. I just have to do this 3 more times. Okay, so I added the other 3, so it looks just like the other side now. And I also got some sheet metal like this and cut off a little square piece. And I also removed some paper material. Still have to do it right there, there, and there. So I'm just going to glue this in place. Put some super glue there, and maybe a little bit right here. And just lay it down and push down on it. And you can kind of wipe away the excess glue. And these pieces are going to support the corner of the base of this. So after you have them all on there, it will be a lot stronger in that corner area. It'll be nice and reinforced, I guess you could say. Now I'm just going to do that to the other 3. Alright, so I added the rest of these little metal plates, as you can see, and I also added the screws to prevent delamination right there. I also used a hacksaw to cut these screws down and make them flush with the surface. So now I'm going to make this entire surface flush. So to do that, I'm just going to take little pieces of hardened paper and glue them between these screws. So it'll look something like this. And then for the exposed screws, I'm just going to take some super glue and fill up that area, and then baking soda, sprinkle it on top, and just make the surface nice and flat. Now I'm just going to actually glue these in place. So just a little bit of super glue, and then push this down in the right place. Same thing with all of them, really. And once they're all glued in place, I'm going to take the super glue and go around the screw like this, and take some baking soda and just kind of sprinkle it over it just like that. And I'm just going to keep doing that until it is a little bit higher than the surface, so I can sand it down. And this is what it looks like after it's been filled up. So it's not smooth yet. I just need to take like a file and some sandpaper and start evening out the surface. And after that, it's nice and smooth. Now I'm just going to do it to the other 3. Alright, so it's been a little while since the beginning of this video, you can probably tell, but here's the paper skateboard right down here. I'm going to take this out in the sunlight so you can see it a little bit better. So here it is. You can see the top surface is still a little bit rough, you know, it's not perfect, but I was going to put a finishing layer on it. But after looking at it, I think it looks kind of cool, and you know, I can still do that later. If you look at the bottom, you can see all the little areas here, how they're nice and smooth now. You know, overall, it looks pretty good. Alright, so I'm just going to try standing on this and just kind of coasting down. It's really heavy, so it's probably going to pick up some speed, or it has the capability of picking up speed because it's so dense. So here we go. Okay, so this is the nose right there, and that's the tail. So I'm just gonna try standing on it and hopefully not break my face. So pick up some speed here, just coasting, just general coasting. Here's a little bump. Okay, all right, it's not, I haven't fallen off yet. Picking up a little bit of speed without pumping. Okay, so now I'm just gonna try, you know, putting some pressure on the nose and the tail, sort of moving it around like this and seeing seeing if it's gonna basically snap. Okay, I mean, it seems to be holding up. You can kind of bring it down. I'm sure razor tail is probably a very real issue with this, but maybe you can repair it or something with more layers of paper. All right, I'm gonna try to pick up a little bit more speed this time and not fall off. I haven't made a paper helmet yet, so I'm just kidding. Okay, let's try to pick up some speed. Oh, it kind of turns pretty fast a little bit. The leaning is real. I don't even have to really pump anymore. All right, I'm gonna try turning a little bit by leaning. Don't fall. Alright, so you saw I was able to pick up a decent amount of speed on here, and I'm going to make more videos on this in the future, just testing out its capabilities a little bit more. But you can probably tell I'm not much of a skateboarder based on what you just saw. I mean, I was able to ride it around pretty easily without it like snapping in half or something. Obviously I have those reinforcements on there, but those were more of a preventative measure than anything, which is why I demonstrated that it was able to support my weight, you know, in that high torque area before adding any of those reinforcements. If this project took like a week to build or something, I probably wouldn't have added any of those preventative reinforcements, but the fact that this entire project took 9 months in total to build, I really don't want to see it break. So, like I said, right there is to prevent bending, because if that part bends, then the edge delaminates, and those screws prevent the edge from delaminating. Now, you've probably been wondering this entire video, where's the grip tape? I actually have some right here. This is clear grip tape. I thought that would look kind of cool over this text, you know, that's on the paper, like this. This is from my nutrition class. So I'm gonna add the grip tape like in another video or something. I was hesitant to do it right now because, you know, these are layers of paper, and if something sticky touches it and then, you know, you mess up and you need to peel it off, it could peel off like 30 layers with it or something like that. So, you know, I've been a little bit scared to do that, but I'll do it eventually. Also, here's one of the original maple skateboard decks I used as a mold for this, and it's really weird because this feels so incredibly light after handling the paper one for so long. You know, this feels as light as a 7-ply maple skateboard deck. So I really learned a lot from this project, and there were so many things that went into this, so many hours that went into this, and so many things I couldn't have possibly predicted when I first started working on this. I couldn't have possibly predicted that every single layer I added to this would take 1 hour to apply. There was no way of me knowing that the viscosity of the Titebond 3 waterproof wood glue would need to be lowered using an equal amount of white Elmer's glue, just so the paper would bond properly. So in total, this entire skateboard deck took 450 sheets of paper, and it's only 110 layers thick because obviously it takes more than one sheet of paper to cover the entire surface. And I used 2-inch wide narrow strips for this project, so I got 4 strips from every 1 sheet of paper, which means this entire skateboard deck is made out of 1,760 strips of paper and 128 fluid ounces of glue. Obviously lots of super glue and baking soda, some screws, and a few metal corner braces as reinforcements. So if you guys have any questions at all about this project, be sure to ask me in the comment section below or in a personal message, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see all the latest updates, and I'll see you guys in the next video.